Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another video. Today we are doing the Q&A for the 5,000 subscriber giveaway. If you won the giveaway, again, there was a first, second, and third place winner. I replied to your comments actually on the community post where the giveaway was held. So make sure you go check that out. Check your YouTube notifications to see if you won that giveaway. I want to thank you guys also so much for participating in the giveaway. We had almost 400 comments and you know, about 400 likes, which is so crazy. Like, just thank you guys all so much for deciding to support the channel, to partake in the giveaway. Now, one real quick thing I want to mention before I get into this video, with the whole coronavirus thing going on, guys, I want to keep getting the content out there to you guys. Dragon Ball is a little slow right now, of course, but DraftBox 5 just got released. There aren't going to be any major tournaments, which is kind of unfortunate, but I think there's still good content to put out there, and I'm going to try and do that for you guys. Try a few kind of new things, kind of different things, but you know, we're going to try and do what we can, and we're going to try and keep the content rolling. I'm no healthcare professional. I should not be advising you guys what to do right now. There's no need for that. Definitely just pay attention to the news and stay safe, stay with your families. But with that being said, guys, we will get into this Q&A video. So first off, CC asks, of all the trading card games available, why do you choose to cover Dragon Ball Super on your channel? What about the games in your eyes makes it stand out in comparison to all the others? So a lot of you guys know I did come from Yu-Gi-Oh originally, and once I started playing Dragon Ball, I kind of just fell like face first into it. I really just fell in love with it. Firstly, it's the IP. Dragon Ball is very sentimental to me. I grew up watching it. I love the characters. I think the fighting is awesome. Like, when I was in grade school, we would talk about like growing up to be scientists and like creating the potion that would let us be like Goku, like let us go Super Saiyan, let us fly. That kind of stuff was pretty sick. But like actually learning to play the game, the mechanics are really solid. Like, I do really appreciate how it works on such a good resource system. Like, you have your energy, which is a resource. You also have every single card in your hand is typically a live usable resource. So that is all really cool to me. I think the game mechanics are excellent. Teague asks, do you think the DraftBox 5 will shift new decks into meta, or will it simply bolster decks already good? I think personally that DraftBox 5 is going to do more so of the latter, bolstering decks that are already meta. Like, there's so many good generic cards, and not really like Universe 10, for example, was not a great archetype. Universe 9 I think is a really good archetype, but I think the cards are so generic that I think they're going to bolster decks that were already good. They probably will create some new decks in the format, but I do think for the most part it's going to pretty much bolster older decks. Sean asks, what's your favorite format that the game has had so far, and what did you play in that format? It's kind of weird for me because at the time I played Skillless is probably my favorite deck that I ever played, but the format wasn't great. Like, it was Broly Height of Mastery format, and it was also Shenron Gogeta format. Like, those are the most two dominant decks, and Kid Goku was definitely, whatever you want to call it, like tier 2 or like more rogue. But yeah, so I think that's probably my answer there. But I guess if it was only favorite format, I think post Shenron ramp ban format, like basically right after Nats, right after Shenron ramp got banned, I think that format was great because there wasn't really like a super oppressive deck. Like, even the button decks were pretty much checked by some other things. Like, there was a good amount of aggro, red was good, button decks were good, and it seemed all pretty fair and balanced. It was pretty cool. This format's great as well. I'm a pretty big fan of this format, even though there are some annoying decks like U7, for example. But anyways, moving on. Joshua asks, do you feel that now is a good time for someone new to get into the game? If so, how do they start? So I think this is a great time to get in Dragon Ball Super. I hear a lot of the common things a lot where, like, especially if you come from another game, you know, I'm too invested in Magic, I'm too invested in Yu-Gi-Oh, I don't want to start a new game, and that does prevent a lot of people from getting into this game. But once you get into this game, I feel like you really appreciate how the game plays, like I was talking a little bit about before. And the game is still so young. Like, this is a game that I can definitely see going very far into the future because of solid game mechanics, because Bandai is constantly working. Like, they're doing a second print run on DraftBox because they understand that we have too much of a shortage, and that's just, to me, amazing ownership, amazing management of the game. So I think now is a great time. And as far as how to start, definitely use your YouTube resources. Like, we have channels like mine, Androids, Eggman, Super Players, lots of great resources for you to learn how to play, and we have a lot of online ways to play. We have Octagon, which actually is currently up to date. I just kind of found that out recently. And Untap as well. Untap's been a little laggy because it's been very overpopulated, so that's why I think Octagon is a really great option as well if you want to download a program for that. Richard asks, do you think it's fair to say that once a new set is released, the majority of the previous sets lose playability in favor of everything new? Do Do you think the game would benefit from better incorporation of previous sets into new ideas? So I do think that every set we generally get is pretty meta impacting. It does impact the meta pretty heavily. I don't think it necessarily renders older stuff useless. Like there are a lot of examples I brought up in the past, like Height of Mastery Broly was good for a very long time. The swap engine was good for a very long time. It just really depends on the format you're looking at. But I do kind of wish that not every set was super meta impactful. Like, I don't know if this game can support it yet, but like a set that is more for casual play, I think would be pretty cool, because it wouldn't make players feel like they have to buy product all that frequently. Now, that is kind of a conundrum, because if the company's not making sales, then the game is not going to survive, so that's not a good alternative. But I know, like Yu-Gi-Oh, for example, they do have very casual sets, and a lot of the cards in there are still money, and yeah, they have the anime to drive off of that, so they'll print like an anime set in a side casual set, and it'll still sell pretty well, but it won't really impact the format. So I don't know if Dragon Ball can find that happy medium, but I think it would be pretty cool if they could, so players didn't constantly feel like they have to keep buying new cards. Zachary asks, considering TOP was a success and you gave some insight on running a tournament, do you think we would ever see some form of cross-world TCG tournament? In the short run, there are no plans for that at the current moment. I mean, this channel would have to seriously grow to something like the size of Channel Fireball for that to happen, and I'm going to stick with this game as long as I possibly can, so that would be an amazing milestone to get to. We just did hit 5,000 subs, so imagine thinking about, like, you know, 100,000 subs later or more, and just like thinking back in this conversation. That'd be really cool. But yeah, I mean, in the immediate future, no. If this channel grows and continues to grow and reaches a point like Channel Fireball, it could be possible. That would be pretty sweet, honestly. PKO Pyro says, for my question, I'm wondering, how do you beat a format where everyone has counterplays or hand disruption, and what is your main tech for these matchups? So I mean, it really does depend on what deck you're playing, but keeping in mind that most of the counterplays, Denial of Hope, Hidden Potential, Vegeta the Cruel, those are most of the important ones. They only hit a very specific type of card, and Denial of Hope hits 20 or less, so it does hit a wider range of cards. But Denial of Hope isn't super popular right now. Like Surge Goku lists are maybe playing like 2 copies of it, if anything. But yeah, so you want to be playing things that are higher than 4 drops, and that is typically done by a rival. So a rival Cooler, a rival Gogeta, a rival Broly. Those are pretty good ways to get around counterplays. As far as hand disruption, my favorite tech for beating hand disruption, I talked about it a lot on the channel, Frost Before the Storm. It's a great common card at set 9. You pay 1 to play it, and then every single turn after that, you pay a red to draw a card. So it is a red tech technically only, but it's a really good card that I like. There's also Sand Instincts. It's not very budget friendly, so I'm sorry for that. But besides that, if you're playing against like Piccolo Successor, keep their board as clear as you possibly can. Like, don't let them go up the Successor chain. Use your counterplays to do that. Use your rivals to do that. Use your negates to do that. Like, if they attack and they have the Android 15 on the board, and After Image kills the Android 15, and that can very well be worth it. So I hope that helped you out a little bit. Relinquish says, how do you feel about the possibility of an online version of DBS? Does the game need it, or is it simply a luxury in your opinion? It's really interesting because the future trends seem to point online, just, you know, in general in the world. But to me, there's something about in-person TCGs, like, you know, shuffling the cards, having that person-to-person interaction that I hope as a society we never lose. Like, I dread the day we become that dystopian online society that just like doesn't know how to interact with each other. I think that TCGs are a great thing for that. Like, I think TCGs are an amazing hobby. One of the main reasons for social interaction. I know now at this point in our global climate is not a great time for social interaction, but this will blow over eventually. And I think that getting back to social interaction will be a very welcome change for all of us once this whole coronavirus thing has passed. Mr. Gaming says, what's your all-time favorite deck to play? Anything up until set 9 right now? Probably, again, going with Skillless Goku. My favorite deck of all time, because I don't know, I played that deck and I understood it. Like, it really clicked in my brain, like just knowing what to do in each matchup, how to navigate it, when to be aggressive, when to be defensive. It really worked for me. And I think that's also a similar feeling I had with Red Yellow Surge Goku. But yeah, I don't know, Skillless will always have a sentimental place in my heart. Ivan says, a long one here, do you believe that the game is in a much healthier state prior to past formats? With that, do you think the game is following a healthy path? So he also says, I am relatively new to the game, but I've heard in talks that Storm was insane and took the meta by storm, literally. Good pun there. Playing against control decks, specifically Invoker, I feel it leaves players bored from the redundancy out of their card game of choice. The deck rinse and repeats consistently, running the same oppressive interactions you get as a player. To my knowledge, a lot of TCGs have always been spread speedy cutthroat wins or controlling the state of the game until your opponent can't do much to solve the problem. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. So do I think this format is more healthy than other formats? I mean, definitely. In this game, we've had what, like 3 or 4 tier 0 formats. We've had SS3, Mecha Frieza, Super Shenron, and Storm was definitely tier 0 for a while. So in terms of like diversity and health of the game, I think it's pretty healthy. Even when you look at something like Invoker, personally, I think a lot of people will probably agree with this, but except for those who probably play the deck. But I think Invoker is boring to play against and boring to play because it's super reactional. And I mean, I felt the same way about Janemba. Again, I'm assuming a lot of people think this way, but I could be totally wrong. But if you're a totally reactionary deck, you have to be a very specific player. You have to be a control player, and that's just kind of what it comes down to. But in terms of like the game being healthy, I think it's very healthy. I think everything in the current format definitely has answers. Like even Invoker's Barrier Deflect SSB Vegeta Inspired Technique, that card has a lot of answers in the format. So I think it is pretty healthy in that case. There are definitely good matchups and bad matchups, but I think it is in a very healthy spot at the moment. I really don't think I could be much happier with the way the format is right now. Total Carnage says, do you have a favorite deck or preferred playstyle? So I already talked about the deck. My preferred playstyle, definitely mid-range. Like, I just love how mid-range can pivot from aggro to defense to control when it kind of needs to. I think that a deck that allows me to pivot is personally what gives me the most success. But again, that's just me. Minnie says, what are your feeling on the pay-to-win like mechanic that Bandai has had over the last few events, especially after Draftbox 4? And do you think they will also do it again with Draftbox 5? Sorry, it's a little tough to read. Or is it the community that's doing this to itself by winning with these new cards? Love to know. I think this is a very wrong view on what's going on. So firstly, I don't think you can ever blame the players for a format. Like Storm, not players' faults. SS3, not players' faults. When you're playing a card game, especially in a competitive mindset at competitive events, you're going to play the strongest deck no matter what. And that you didn't create the cards. The players did not create the cards. The players are just going to the tournament to try and win the tournament. So you can never blame the players for playing the strongest cards. You know, I wouldn't say the players create a toxic format or create a tier 0 format. Sometimes when you're balancing a card game, it can be very difficult to foresee every avenue. And then once a player catches that avenue, like, you know, once a player puts Storm together, it spreads like a wildfire because of how powerful it is. So I don't think that that's necessarily a player problem. It's also hard to fault Bandai because, again, if you ever try to create a game or create anything really, you know how difficult it is to balance. So I definitely feel for them there. And as far as pay to win, like, I really don't agree with that either. Like, yeah, Red Yellow Surge Goku, the deck I'm playing right now, super expensive. Like, all the draft box cards, incredibly expensive. But then you have Boo, which is, I think you could build the whole Boo deck for, I want to say, like 100, maybe to 150 bucks, which is a lot more expensive than the game has been in the past. But as far as the rest of the meta deck goes, and as far as meta decks go in just about any game, $150 is super budget. And Boo is an incredibly strong deck. It's been to the finals of regionals. It's been in several top cuts. So I don't really think pay to win is necessarily a fair thing to say. I think this is kind of like a mindset you might want to adjust going forward if you can find it inside yourself to do that. Brant says, I recently signed on to your Patreon and I couldn't be more impressed with the depth and insight of your articles and videos. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. My question is, very soon my friends and I are going to be starting a YouTube channel, and I'm curious what you recommend for someone just starting out. Thanks for the great content. So if you're going to be starting your own content creation for Dragon Ball Super, I think we need a lot more content creators. Just people getting their info out there about the game, like spreading the game, I think is a great thing. If you're going to start your own channel, you have to be consistent. Number one thing, a very close number two is quality of content. You have to have interesting things to talk about. You have to kind of know what you're talking about, and you know, you can show that to people in your videos. But consistency is going to be number one. You have to be doing things consistently, because if you make a video or maybe 2 videos in a week and then you don't make another video for the next 3 weeks, and you come back and you leave and you come back, it's not going to be good. You're not going to create a fan base. YouTube's not going to recommend your videos. So definitely consistency. If you can only do 1 video a week, if that's all you can manage in the beginning, then just do that. That's what I would say to you. Turner says, in what ways do you think Bandai can improve the game? Any quality of life changes to help the game grow? Love your channel. Thank you so much again. So improving the game, I think the gameplay and the format stuff is really solid. Like, again, there's no overbearing deck. Like, Piccolo is arguably the best deck right now, but even then it has its own checks and balances, and I think that game is in a really good spot. Obviously it could be better, but do I know the exact ways to make it better? Not really. Quality of life changes, I talked about a little bit with the product stuff, like releasing a little bit less meta impacting stuff every so often, but again, they would have to figure out a way to do that that wouldn't hurt their sales. And I don't know if this game has, I kind of feel like everyone's game is like low-key competitive. Everyone just wants to play a really strong deck, which I think is great from a competitive standpoint, and from a player standpoint, everyone should theoretically be getting better at this game gradually, but they have to make sure they can do that in a way that won't hurt their sales. So that'd be pretty cool in my opinion. Cyber says, hey Joey, congrats on 5k subs, well deserved. My question is, we have seen the game evolve so much since set 1. We have good metas and bad ones. What do you think Bandai needs to do to maintain good and balanced metas going forward? Man, ever since like set 5, or I guess set 6 really, their design philosophy has been through the roof impressive to me. Like, they created Gogeta 7 in set 5, and then after that, like, I haven't really seen a card that was obviously broken on release. Like, yeah, Super Shenron became a thing, but that was definitely unintended. Again, I talked about how hard it is to design a game, so keeping that in mind, their design philosophy has been incredible. Like, they're still printing strong decks, but they are doing a very good job of not making anything overbearing, in my opinion. So I think they're doing a great job. Bandai, whatever you guys did to change your ideology from set 5 to now, keep it up, man. I'm really impressed. Camille says, what do you think about promos, draft boxes, expansions, and their availability? Where these cards are insanely powerful, and more product releases where actually it's really hurting new players where they can't catch up with that speed. All of that is also caused by short print and distribution problems. Anyway, congrats on 5k. Thanks. Best DBS channel on YouTube. Thank you so much, Camille. Again, I talked about it a little bit. Like, maybe instead of printing like more quote unquote casual products, maybe they could space out their product a bit. Now, I compared their release schedule actually with Konami with Yu-Gi-Oh, and both companies are typically releasing a new product every single month. Sometimes Yu-Gi-Oh has an off month, so they do have a little bit more space than Dragon Ball, but generally it is once per month they're releasing a new product. Now, I mentioned that Yu-Gi-Oh is releasing a little bit more casual products, so it's not always impacting the format in a crazy way. They might have like 1 or 2 good cards in those quote unquote casual sets, but maybe DBS could space them out a little bit. Maybe every month and a half do a release instead of every month. Maybe that could work out. But besides that, like, yeah, Bandai is still figuring it out. You guys got to remember, it's a young dev team. They're really dedicated to giving us a great game. I think they've been doing a great job so far. So with that in mind, I just want you guys to remember that. Dean says, how do you feel about the state of the game, meaning the strength of surge leaders? Seems like blanking entire fields of cards, ripping 2 cards from hand, or popping anything for free is a bit too strong. Wondering if you sense any bans or erratas coming for the multicolor leaders. Yeah, I think surge leaders can maybe be like wish leaders. Like, it seems like wish leaders were a bit overtuned, so they haven't really gave us wish support, or at least any crazy wish support recently. So I can definitely see them toning it back a bit on surge leaders. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that they are really powerful, and I've talked about it before. Like, your deck has to be pretty leader centric in order to succeed in this format, and that is pretty important, and surge leaders do a great job of that. So I think we'll see another format where maybe surge leaders aren't so important, but for now it seems like they're here to stay. Maybe Piccolo sees a ban, maybe not. I don't really think it needs one, but that's just my opinion. Do you think product comes out too quickly, or do you like the pace? I personally would appreciate more time exploring a current meta before new stuff is released. Congrats on 5k, keep up the good work. If I could throw in a request, it would be more live play on your channel. I will definitely try and do that. It's gonna be actually kind of hard, and now with the, you know, self-quarantine and social distancing stuff, Christopher, sorry about that, but I'm gonna try what I can to do more gameplay. And again, product release, I think that there's a problem here because we don't have super frequent events, so formats seem like they're a bit shorter. So I actually wish that, I hope that in the future we get much more frequent like regionals that are more locally accessible rather than the big events. The big events are great, but it would be kind of cool if we get them a little bit more frequently. Elle says, what do you think of the approach Bandai is taking with dealing with problem cards? Would you prefer to see bans, erratas, or silver bullets? I think the ban and errata route is the best. I'm not a huge fan of silver bullets. Like, I thought Tau was like alright, but once they ruled it that it actually triggers off counterplays, that was really toxic. But I'd probably rather go ban and errata format, or route rather. I think bans are fine. Like, sometimes cards are just too powerful, you gotta ban them. Maybe they get power corrupt in the future, you can take them off the ban list. Erratas are kind of annoying because, like, the card doesn't physically say what it does, and then you have new players that are confused. But really, that shouldn't be such an issue, because if you're playing a trading card game, you're part of a community, you should be able to ask someone what the card actually does. We all have the internet, we all have that resource. So realistically, I think bans and erratas are fine. What new card skills would you like to see in the game? This is something I've been thinking about, and obviously we haven't gotten this because we just saw new Universe 9 stuff, but it would be so cool if the Universe 9 archetypes, only the Universe 9 archetype, had some type of skill where you could side deck leaders. So, you know, you have a Bergamo leader, a Lavender leader, and a Basil leader, that are all just kind of good in different scenarios. It would be so sick if you could actually swap leaders in between games, and only that archetype could do it, because I think that'd be a pretty broken skill. But if you put it in the right archetype and make it only certainly powerful, I think it'd be a pretty cool thing. But again, could definitely a balancing challenge for sure. Crafty Critter says, when did you first get into the game and what set was it? What made you enjoy the game? So yeah, I got into this game during set 2, a little bit before the first draft box came out, so a little bit before Mecha Frieza came out. And I got the cards because I thought they looked so super cool. Typically Yu-Gi-Oh players will use cards from other games as like tokens and whatnot. So me and my best friend, we just bought some packs, opened them, we saw the cards, it looked sick, and then we were like, okay, let's learn how to play this game. Ever since then, man, I started going to locals, got smashed in my first like several locals, got absolutely destroyed, and it's been history from there. Started the channel, topped a few events, did some good stuff, and it's been history ever since. But guys, that was the Q&A. Thank you guys all so much for deciding to contribute, following, subscribing. Again, if you did win the giveaways, I commented, I replied back to your comments on that community post, so make sure you check that out. Guys, thank you again so much. Let's keep the channel going. Stay safe out there. I will see you all next time.